Hi friends! It's time for more Create This Book. So let's just get started. The first page I'm going to do says, create a pet. Make this page into a pet. Since this obviously has a lot of bleeding from the pages next to it, I'm going to be doing this on a separate sheet of paper. Let me just make sure there's a spot for the instructions. For this page, I wanted to make something that didn't look like anything that already exists. I don't know why, because the instructions don't say anything about it being a made-up creature, but my brain decided that was a rule. I wanted something fuzzy, with giant eyes, because fuzzy and big eyes equals cute. Let's also give him some tiny wing arms that make absolutely no biological sense.
Yep, good idea.
Obviously, since this is my made-up creature, he has to be pink, because pink is my favorite color. He has giant ears, because I just think giant ears are the cutest. No idea why. He also has these weird feet that kind of look like paws, but are also orange like duck feet. And he has a beak. I think I accidentally drew a Furby. Crap. Well, this is not a Furby. This is a Fuzzbert. And he apparently eats jelly beans. Like I said, this pet is named Fuzzbert. Is it incredibly similar to another creation I named Filbert? Yes. But once the name Fuzzbert manifested in my head, it wouldn't leave. Who am I to fight fate? After giving everything a base layer with alcohol markers, I use pencils for some detail and shading. After it was all done, I like how the fur came out, but his ears and feet are just a little bit boring to me. Throwing on some highlights will help. I didn't plan ahead for the background, because I never do. I always forget about it until the very end, when I realize that my picture looks unfinished. So I stuck with my lazy method of using soft pastels to throw a really dirty looking turquoise background on. Then I put on a coat of matte Mod Podge before gluing this into the book. Overall, I really like this page, but in the future, I need to remember to think about the background at least a little bit. The next page I'm going to do says, create color combinations. For this one, I'm going to randomly select colors to combine. So I'm using this spinny wheel to decide for me. First color, here we go. Gray. Okay, gray and green. Gray and green. Gray and green. What's gray and green? An alien wearing a spacesuit. And he's giving a thumbs up because he's really impressed with his snazzy suit. I'm outlining this with Arteza fine liner and then giving it a fatter border with an Ohuhu brush liner. This might seem like a lot of detail, but it's important that I remember this later. To color this page in, I'm going to try a couple of new products that I bought. First are these Faber-Castell Gold Faber pencils. I've been wanting to try the polychromos, but they're sort of really expensive. So I decided to try these instead. The packaging is nice, and the pencils are really pretty. But the lead is kind of hard. Better than Crayola, but I think the Prismacolors are still better for me. I also got this Artist Loft colored pencil blender. This I really do like. It seems to push the color around pretty nicely, and I'm anxious to try it out with some of my softer leaded pencils. I'm just adding a little key at the bottom to show what my color combo was. And moving on. The next color combo is purple and orange. How about a cute little lizard? There is actually a lizard that is purple and orange, but most of his orange is on his back, so I gave him a makeover. Then we have orange and white. So naturally, I thought of a clownfish. Last, we have brown and green. Not gonna lie, I couldn't think of a brown and green animal. Except maybe a frog dressed as a UPS driver? But Google rescued me and reminded me that mallard ducks exist. After they were done, I went in and added all the little highlights in their eyes. Then, again, I had no idea what to do for a background. So I went with soft pastel again. When I went to Mod Podge this page, the liner pen smeared something terrible. It seemed only to smear underneath the characters and not as much inside of them, so I think it was the brush liner that was smearing. And this was a full 2 days later, so it had plenty of time to dry. Once it had that Mod Podge on there, no pencil or pastel is gonna work, but I just couldn't leave it like this. So I used a white paint marker to draw thick borders around each animal. It doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense visually, but it does cover the liner smear, so I can accept it. The last page I'm gonna do says, create an empty setting. For this one, I'm going to use a separate sheet of paper because I know I want to use alcohol markers and they bleed like crazy. I found this YouTube channel called Amy and Art, and she does alcohol marker tutorials. Most of them are nature landscapes, so I decided to follow one of hers. I'll link the exact tutorial down below. I highly encourage you to check her out, but if you want to follow her tutorials, don't do what I did. I sort of did this on a whim, and while she's only using chisel tip markers, I have anything but. Also, she's using brands that I don't have. I thought I would be smart and write down all of the colors she's using, look up a color chart, and then compare it to my swatches of Ohuhu markers. Except that online color charts must be highly inaccurate because my color selections look ridiculous. Especially as I start going through the grassy areas. The actual smarter thing would have been to just swatch and choose colors as I went. As I kept going through this, I started to get more and more frustrated and discouraged because this was looking like actual butt the more time went on. Eventually, I just went completely off tutorial and tried to make things up to fix it. When I finally got back to following the tutorial, I added liner. And while it looked better, I was still just really feeling down that it didn't look like hers. I decided to set it aside and come back to it the next morning. When I stepped away from it, I thought about how sometimes when it comes to art, I get too focused on how good everyone else is and how I want to be able to have all of these really cool skills, and I feel like I'll never get there. It can be really disheartening comparing myself to all these other great artists. So I tried to remind myself that I'm at a different part in my journey than they are. And if I get too stressed out about what I can't do, I'm not really having any fun. So instead, I just want to set the goal to get a little bit better with each piece that I make. Keeping that in mind, when I came back to this the next morning, I didn't hate it quite as much. I actually kind of like it. Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but it's better than I would have done if I had never tried it. So that's all for this week. What do you think of the pages I did? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.